Hey everyone, welcome to another Top 10 of 2021. This time I'm going to be looking at games that are just a little bit different, off the beaten path, unique, quirky, oddballs, odd ducks, whatever you want to call them. This is 10 games that aren't my top 10 of the year or anything like that. These ones aren't in any of those, but I wanted to give these one special mention because I like when games do something different. So let's talk about them. Number 10 is going to be Merchant's Cove. While this wasn't my favorite game, I do like it. I do have a lot of fun with it, and I like that there's the asymmetric player powers and that there are such different ways to play your own little board and your own character. You come together in a central board. That middle part is fairly straightforward, which is why this is number 10. I don't think this is the most unique type of thing or anything, but I do appreciate that each time you play, you can be a different character and do a different type of mini game. And I think that that's a good touch. So my number 10, Merchant's Cove. Number 9 is a roll and write game called Riverside. Riverside is a game where you are a cruise ship, basically, moving along to these different kind of ports of call. And you're doing this interesting roll and write thing where you want to please guests and you want to make them happy, but you also want to take them out onto excursions, expeditions along the coast. And it's easier to do the ones close to where the ship is, and it's harder to do the ones further away, but you can really maximize that for the best payout. And so I think that's a fun little way to do a roll and write game where there's this central ship moving around to different ports in the middle. I like that part a lot. And number 8 is the game called 10. It's not my number 10. My number 8 is the number 10. 10 is a push your luck card game. I like these a lot. The type of game that you could almost, this one's a little more complicated. You could almost shuffle the deck of cards. That's the setup. Start flipping over cards and playing the game. This one has more going on to it, which is what I think is interesting, right? It is push your luck, set collection, but also has auctions and also has 2 different ways to bust, and it has a market of cards that you can purchase from after they've been busted and they go to the side. It's interesting. It's a little bit more complex than I was expecting, but it's more rules intensive, and teaching it's a little bit clunky, but once you play it, it's not complicated. And I think that's why I like this game a lot. So my number 8, 10. Number 7 is a game called Cubitos. This is a bag building, kind of almost like a deck building game, but with dice. And this has some of the best systems that I've seen for kind of managing your dice. You get to choose. You can have a little bit of a push your luck with re-rolls, and I like that. It's got a very quirky, odd look to it. I like that you're controlling these different animal powers and you're trying to race your critters across this map. I think overall this game is very fun. I like the decision points you have with it, but it also just feels like a strange one as you're explaining it and as you're playing it. It's not strange to a way that it makes it hard to play, but just strange in that this is a really unique kind of take on this bag building, dice building thing. Next up is Kabuto Sumo. Kabuto Sumo is the coin-pushing type game where you're trying to push your opponent's beetle off of the wrestling ring. Obviously, it's one of those games again. There's a few other coin-pusher type games out there, but I really like the theme of this one. I find this one to be particularly charming. I think that it has a very good look, Kwanche Moria art, and the theme is delightful and hilarious, and the gameplay tends to go pretty well if people are just going into it with a mindset of having a lot of fun. Number 5 is a game called Snakes! Extra S's at the end. Snakes is a social deduction trivia game. And so I'm one of those people that I've played enough social deduction games for the most part. I don't need another straightforward one, but I like ones that are kind of word game adjacent or trivia game adjacent. I like this idea that someone at the table knows what the answer to this question is, and then the other players are trying to answer this very difficult trivia question. Just something that you won't intuit. You won't know intuitively, and so you have to try to answer it, and someone's kind of trying to, lead you along, and so you think this person sounds really confident, or maybe they're not, so we should choose a different answer than what they've done. Really strange little game, but you know what? I'm surprised that this one works. Number 4 is this is a deduction game. It's called A Little Wordy. A Little Wordy is a game where you have some tiles in front of you, 2-player game only. Each person creates a word secretly out of their tiles. They give the tiles to the other player, and the other player starts using these card powers in the middle of the table to play a little game of deduction and figure out what word the other person came up with. And it's really tricky. Every power that you activate gives your opponent a certain number of points, and so once you guess their word, you stop giving that person points, but whoever has the most points at the end of the round is the winner. I like this, the different powers that you can use. You can say, hey, what's the first letter? But that's going to cost me 3 points I'm giving to you. Or I could say, is this letter in there? It only costs me 1 point, and I have a strong binary yes-no answer from it, but it doesn't narrow things down a lot. This is a real game. I really liked it. So that's my number 4, a little wordy. Number 3 is Last Message. This is actually another kind of deduction style game. There's a map, and then there's two maps, and then there's a player screen down the middle. 2 players are on one side, and then the rest of the players are on the other side. One player is trying to get the opponents to guess which individual person in this giant Where's Waldo-like drawing, which one is them, and then the other person on that screen is working against them. And when the main person is giving clues to the other side, the counter agent is basically erasing certain number of boxes of clues. It's really tricky, but it's tricky for both sides, and so I really like this one. Quirky, strange little party game. My number 2 is a game called Hibachi. Hibachi is about, of course, the normal way that you run a kitchen is by trying to get ingredients and then cook them up and serve them to people. And you do that by throwing poker chips into different pots of resources. There's also pots of special actions, and you have to try and throw these poker chips onto it. Really cool game. Really, really weird little game, but I like it a lot. And then my number 1 game is Dive. What a great gimmick this one has. You have transparent sheets, different layers of them, and you're trying to guess about how many layers deep certain things are. You want to try and guess where they are. You want to avoid sharks. You want to use these transparencies and kind of just estimate, but you've got a good idea of how deep something may or may not be. I love gimmicks like that. I like transparencies in games. I think this one looks gorgeous, and so I think that this is just one of the coolest, quirkiest ideas out there. So that's my 10 just kind of unique games that I think deserve some shout out from 2021. My name is Chris. Thanks for watching.